Hey everybody, welcome to a weekend edition of NoDQ&A video right here on youtube.com/NoDQCW, and as always, NoDQ.com. Let's get right down to your questions. This is from Dev0094. Hey Aaron, love the show. My question is, what are your thoughts on the rumors to have Ryback face Undertaker at WrestleMania in a streak versus streak match? On paper, it sounds like a great idea, but I'm not really sure I would do this match. I think that with Undertaker's health the way it is and with his age, it's just not a good idea to put him in there with someone who's as green as Ryback. I think you're risking the Undertaker getting hurt. In previous years, we've seen Undertaker in there with seasoned veterans like Shawn Michaels and Triple H, guys that can protect him in the ring. They've had the experience. And I think if you're going to keep putting Undertaker in matches, you're going to need to put him in there with somebody that he can work with efficiently and somebody who will protect him. So I just don't see Ryback being that guy. I think if those two had a match, it would be very uncoordinated and it wouldn't be all that good. I think you should put Undertaker in there with somebody he can trust and has had experience with in the past. So guys like John Cena are your best option, I think, at this point. This is from Da61934. Hey Aaron, please answer in video. Who do you think is past their prime and needs to retire from wrestling? Obviously the guys that are getting up there. Guys like Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair. I mean, just those guys that already had their best years well over a decade ago. I mean, really, Kevin Nash shouldn't be wrestling anymore, at least on a big stage. Yeah, but these guys are going to keep doing it. As long as somebody will pay them money, they'll keep wrestling. But some of these guys need to just do what's best for the industry and just step away. But unfortunately, they have financial issues, they have divorces, and they need to keep wrestling, and people will keep hiring them. But it's not good for the industry in the long run. Just because you're preventing new talent from being able to rise up. And I mean, if Hulk Hogan was around for a short period and helped boost the TNA name, that would be one thing. But when he's a central part of all the storylines and he continues to be a major focal point, it really hurts your product more than it helps it. In a previous video, you mentioned that some references in Mick Foley's Legend or Statistic promo on Raw a couple weeks ago were poorly received. Do you think the fact that some of the fans are too young to remember this is one of the flaws of the PG era? No, I don't see it being a flaw of the PG era. WWE is always going to have new fans, and WWE shouldn't force these fans to try to go on YouTube and do research to try to understand a storyline. WWE needs to make storylines that everybody can understand, and it was also the crowd. I mean, it depends on what city you're in, and in some cities you'll have older fans that'll remember some of the things that you're referencing, and in some cities you'll have younger fans that have no idea what you're talking about. So it wasn't really the fault of the fans or the PG era. It was just a situation where Mick Foley made these references, and it went over the heads of a lot of the audience. That's just all there was to it. This is from Joseph Silk. Hey Aaron, from London, England. Where the hell is Evan Bourne? I don't care for him much, but he hasn't been around forever yet. Is still on WWE.com. Evan Bourne is still recovering from his injury, and at this point he's scheduled to return around Royal Rumble. But to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure if WWE will want to invest in Evan Bourne again at this point. He's been gone for a long time, and he has the wellness strikes against him. WWE might be at a point where they decide to cut their losses with Evan Bourne. They have other prospects, they have other talent that they want to push. But then again, the Royal Rumble would be a great opportunity to bring him back. You have a lot of spots to fill. You have 30 people in the Rumble, and him coming back would be a nice surprise. If he's not at the Rumble, I think that would be a sign that WWE has decided to move on and let Evan Bourne go and focus on other talent, but we'll see. What are your opinions on ECW One Night Stand 05 and 06? They were great pay-per-views. They were something totally different from what you usually see on WWE pay-per-view. And to WWE's credit, They went all out with the first One Night Stand. They did everything they could to make it authentic and unique, and it really felt like an old school ECW pay-per-view. You got to see some of the old ECW stars, and it was just something totally different from what you usually see on a WWE pay-per-view. And it surprised me because going in, I wasn't really expecting much. I thought it was going to be like a watered down ECW, but WWE pulled out all the stops, and it was an awesome show. And 2006 was also a great show, ECW One Night Stand 2, or Sloppy Seconds, as some people like to call it. But it was good for different reasons because it was more like a traditional WWE pay-per-view. It was kind of like a hybrid. It was like an old school ECW pay-per-view mixed with the current WWE product at the time. You had a lot of the WWE stars of that period on that pay-per-view, and you had John Cena in the main event, and that made for some very interesting pay-per-view television because you had John Cena coming out there in enemy territory, and the people were 100% against him. So extremely entertaining pay-per-view. Both of them were tremendous. Did you go to any pay-per-views live during the Attitude Era? As a matter of fact, I did. I was at the 1999 Royal Rumble in Anaheim, California. I was 16 at the time, and I was there with my dad, and I just remember the big difference between that period and going to later shows was that the crowds at that time, they didn't care about seeing wrestling. All they wanted to see was the entrances. That's what they popped for. You know, Jeff Jarrett coming out with Deborah, and Val Venus and the Godfather coming out with the hose. And once the guys actually got in the ring and started wrestling, the people did not give a damn. So that was something interesting to observe at the time. And it was funny because during the Rumble match, Vince and Steve Austin were fighting in the crowd. And they were actually right by me. And there's even a point where if you know where to look, you could see me. And they actually knocked over my popcorn. So Vince, you still owe me $4.50, you son of a bitch. This is from Viper269. Hey Aaron, just read a report saying that Vince was pissed at Josh Matthews at Raw for his commentary. Do you think he is overreacting or just losing his mind? I think it is time for Vince to step down. Please answer in video. You have to realize that Vince McMahon has been like this for years. This is nothing new from Vince McMahon. He's lost his temper several times over the years, and there's always been these backstage reports that he blew a gasket at the Raw tapings or whatever. It's just Vince being Vince. So it's not a matter of him being old or anything like that. It's just the way he is, and he's very high-strung. You know the stories about Vince. He never gets any sleep. He's working 24/7. His mind is always focused on wrestling, and he always wants perfection. So if something goes wrong, he speaks out, and he lashes out at people. It's just Vince being Vince. Hey Aaron, I was just wondering how come they changed the old Raw and SmackDown stages to what it is today? When I mean old stages, I mean that huge fist on SmackDown and the old Raw stage with the Titantrons. Please answer this in video. Well, what happened was WWE moved to HD, and they wanted to take advantage of HD, and so they built these HD sets with the big screens and all the flashy graphics and all that. So it was just a matter of technology changing. But I have to say that I do miss the old stages, like the SmackDown with the fist, and I miss the old pay-per-view stages where every month they would change it up and they would build a set unique to that pay-per-view. Now you just have the HD screens, and it kind of loses its uniqueness, I think, a little bit. But that's just the way it goes with the technology changing, and it's a different era. This is from Maddie Dawn. What do you think Paul Heyman will do when Brock Lesnar returns? I think he would go and be Brock's manager because Punk is already amazing on the mic and doesn't really need him. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I'm sure when Brock Lesnar comes back, Paul Heyman will be right by his side again. And, there's all the speculation that some sort of faction will be formed. I mean, that remains to be seen. As far as Punk not needing Paul Heyman, he doesn't in terms of speaking on the mic, but in terms of getting heel heat, I think Paul Heyman has done a tremendous job helping to get CM Punk over as a heel. And, I mean, people were still cheering CM Punk, but ever since Punk has formed the alliance with Paul Heyman, I've noticed that a lot more people in the arenas are booing CM Punk now. So I think Paul Heyman is definitely helping in that regard, and I think that they will continue to stay together even when Brock Lesnar returns. Alright, that'll wrap it up for this edition of No DQ&A video. Thanks as always for watching. Subscribe, youtube.com/NoDQCAW. Tell a friend on Facebook or Twitter. And I'll see you next week for more No DQ&A video.